All right, greetings and salutations, everybody. This is Tickets Please with a special look at the Major League Baseball. Now, you may know me as a film reviewer, you may know me as a game player, but I also like looking at sports as well. And one of those things this year is going to be, believe it or not, Major League Baseball, which is going through what I have to think is a very big year for them with the creation of new stars, the fading of old ones. You start to see teams rise and fall based on how things are going to go. As you can see, we got ourselves a tier list that we're going to put up here. And it's going to be a list of wins you see for each team this year. We start with under 60 and go all the way up to 100 plus. And yes, there is a reason I don't have anything from 96 to 100. That's because no teams are going to meet that, unfortunately. We're going to kick things off alphabetical order style with the Los Angeles Angels. I got them going 70 and 92. Now, the thing about this team is that they do have some young stars that are rising and improving. But honestly, the problem is they only can go as far as Mike Trout can stay healthy and is able to contribute. The good news here is they're moving him from center field to right, which hopefully will lead to an increase of health and a decrease of time off the field. But here's the real question, though. Are the Angels going to finally commit to a full rebuild? And if that's the case, do they trade Trout during the All-Star break? Or maybe they wait until after the season when things fully split up between them? Houston's next. I have them going 86 and 76. The thing that really is going to help them this year is they have an improving rotation, and they did add some new weapons this year in the form of Isaac Peraltas, Christian Walker, and Jake Berger. They did lose some big names, most notably Kyle Tucker and Alex Bergman. Having said that, what's left could be enough to at least make a wild card berth. But this may well be their last good run, at least until they've commit a little bit more fully towards the youth. The Athletics, we can't call them Oakland anymore, and they're not quite ready for Vegas, but maybe Sacramento? I think that's where they're located. I got them going 75 and 87. Now, the thing with them is that they have a situation involving their owner, John Fisher, who is notoriously tight on the wallet book. Very tight, not willing to spend any money. Well, this offseason, whether it was maybe a desire to see maybe an improved roster in the field, or maybe because MLB threatened to take away the shared money from them, he finally decided to spend some money in the offseason. And got a couple players extended, Brent Rooker and Lawrence Butler, and then added a few new names. And one thing is clear, even if you don't fully buy the ballpark situation being settled with Vegas, I think that's still kind of up in the air at the moment. Stay tuned for that. But the team is definitely clearly better on both sides. Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but if things really start to break well for them, maybe 500 isn't out of the realm of possibility. Next up is going to be Toronto. I'm a little down on them compared to most other predictions. I got them going with the 76 and 86 record. Although I think the drama involving Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, whether they decide to renew them or whether they decide to let them go, I think it's going to overshadow a team that has added some help this offseason, although maybe not the names they wanted. They always seem to come up just short when it came to grabbing some of the big free agents. I guess we can call them San Francisco North, maybe. It's going to lead to a very tough decision whether they can extend both of these players, commit to them as being part of the core, or where they decide to trade and maybe try to get some players that might help them a few years down the road. But I think that situation being unsettled is going to negatively impact how well they do this year. All right, next up we got the Atlanta Braves, and that's a team that I think is going to go 95-67. Nobody is talking about as possible World Series contender, but realistically, with everything going wrong with their ace and top player being hurt as a result of injuries that took them out early last season, they still managed to win 89 games last year. And both of them are coming back. And in the case of Acuna, they got to hope that maybe he can bounce back fully and become the player that he can be. Strider already is looking like he's in pretty solid shape. I think top to bottom, I think the injury luck thing is going to be a little bit more on their side this year. And I think, like I said, I think they could be a top contender. I got them down for 95-67. Coming up next, Milwaukee. I got a lot of blowback last year from people when I predicted they would finish at the bottom of the NL Central. Because they only picked up Rhys Hoskins. They lost their Craig Counsell, their manager, and it looked like they lost more going out than coming in. But, when you know it, that young roster really made me my words, as did some of the lovely people over on Twitter. I'm not going to presume they're going to do badly again. I think they're going to finish second in the NL Central with an 83-79 record. I do think losing Willie Adams and Devin Williams is going to hurt them this year. They got a solid enough rotation, but that offense does need to step up. Otherwise, they could be in a situation where they lose a lot of 3-1 and 2-1 games this year. But I think they're going to win just enough to just miss out on a wild card berth, and they'll not quite make the cut in the NL Central, but they'll be over 500, and that's something that's going to be good for them, I think. Even though they probably wanted more. St. Louis Cardinals. I got them 78-84. Now, the thing with them, they got themselves a shaky rotation out of the top two of Sonny Gray and Eric Fede. They do have a decent offense. The question is, can they move their veterans for the future? People like Nolan Arenado is still a Cardinal right now. Ryan Halsey. There's a few other people I'm thinking about, but I've forgotten their names. But I can say, however, that they're kind of in a season transition between a full-blown rebuild and just trying to get along in a watered-down NL Central. I think they will probably... I think I got them finishing fourth barely over the Reds. Fourth. But it's going to be I think there'll be some signs of improvement. Basically, hopefully they can get some good results for the trades they make and try to do well. Chicago Cubs... I got them going 87-75. They got a solid rotation. And thanks to adding Kyle Tucker in the offseason, the Cubs offense is going to take a big step forward. And I think at the end of the day, that'll be enough for them to win the division by 4 games over the Brewers and at least make the National League playoffs. What they do from there, well, that's on them. But with Steele and Imanaga being top two, they're going to be a challenge. We'll see if the other teams are up to it. Arizona Diamondbacks is next, and what can I say? This is going to be a team that I think a lot of people are kind of bullish on, and I'm among them. I'm going to go 90-72 for this one. They do have a very lethal rotation with some depth. They got a good offense, and hey, they're dangerous. Things may not have gone the way they wanted last year, but yet it looked like the offense was taking a step up. Towards the end, everything looked like it was starting to come around. And I think given a full year, they're probably going to be dangerous. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a team that knocks the Dodgers out, but I think there's a good possibility they could at least make the championship series game in the National League. Next up, the Dodgers, and well, wouldn't you know it, I have them winning 110-52. They had quite that offseason this year. All right, during the offseason, the Dodgers managed to add Blake Snell along with Roki Sasaki, giving him a nice punch in the give him a very nice punch over in the rotation. Re-signing Teoscar Hernandez. Getting another deal for Tanner Scott. And Kirby Yates. And then throw in Blake Treinen. Seong Kim. Another year with Kershaw. And deals with Michael Conforto and Enrique Hernandez. Yes, they lost Walker Buehler and Jack Flaherty, but to be honest with you, it looks like they definitely was one of those teams that added by subtraction. And after that offseason, who can blame them for doing quite well here? The Dodgers, I mean, like I said, Mookie Betts is one of those guys that kind of got off to a rough start with the sickness in Japan, where he apparently has lost a lot of weight. Hopefully he gets well in a hurry. But the thing is, with the kind of depth they have, and they could probably go without him and be just fine. I think the only question is the previous two teams to win over 100 games in the regular season, they didn't get the deal done when it came time to put it together for a World Series. Is history going to repeat itself like, say, the 2001 Mariners? Or are they going to actually get out there and do it and win the whole thing when it counts? And repeat? I guess time will tell. But next up is going to be San Francisco, who they had a memorable offseason of their own. They added Robbie Ray, Justin Verlander, and Willie Adames. But I'm only going to have them finishing 80-82. Right now, the problem seems to be their lineup still could use a little bit more help, and the rotation could as well. I mean, Ray just came off of Tommy John surgery, so he may not be 100%, and Verlander is 42, which is not exactly the most inspiring thing in the world. Adams is definitely a gain, but they, like I said, they're probably a few bats and a few pitchers away from really doing some damage in the West, so I got them 80-82. Next up is the Cleveland Guardians. I only have them going 80-82 as well. The thing about them is they have one of the top bullpens in the majors with Emmanuel Clase, and then they got a few other people with some depth there that they're really good. But unfortunately, you got to get to the ninth in order for that to actually work. And right now the problem is they got some holes in the bullpen. But they got some holes in the rotation. They got some holes in the lineup. That's going to keep them from reaching their full potential. So I think you're going to see them take a step back this year, 80 and 82. You kind of have to wonder at this point is what is Manny Ramirez going to be thinking about Cleveland in the future? Is he going to want to stay committed to him, or is he maybe try to get a World Series somewhere else? They didn't make the World Series a couple years ago, but this is definitely one of those "what have you done for me lately" sort of scenarios, and the answer is probably not enough. Next one is the Seattle Mariners. I got them going 84 and 78. Unfortunately, they end up on the wrong end of a playoff search. They have arguably the best rotation in the American League. We have Logan Gilbert, Louis Castillo, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. But this is one of those years that they really should have stepped up and done some things for that offense. They didn't. And I think it's the offense is going to probably put them in some very tough situations where they're going to have to win games, maybe trying to score one, maybe with a lack of run support. And I think that is what's going to do them in this year. The Miami Marlins, I'm not going to hold back here. They are going to be 57 and 105. Basically, it is going to be a season where Sandy Alcantara is on the clock. The Marlins are rebuilding, but they really need some people in the young core to start stepping up. Basically, right now they're a couple years behind Washington and Oakland and a couple of other teams I can think of that has decided to rebuild, but they're just not there yet. And best of luck to you. You're going to need all the help you can get. Next up is the New York Mets. And, well, I got them going 88 and 74. Hello, Soto. Welcome back, Alonso. However, out of Sean Manaea, that rotation could be a concern. Is it possible that Frankie Montas and reliever turned starter Clay Holmes to step up? If they can, then the Mets could be another challenger for the National League title. But they got to be able to step up with that rotation, because if they can't, the Mets are kind of cooked. Speaking of the Nationals, I got to bring them up now. It looks like the rebuilding effort is well underway here. They're just hoping maybe they can start seeing some results. I got them going 72 and 90. Now, what can I say about them? They got a lot of young, talented players. But much like the Mets, that rotation is kind of shaky. The only thing you have going for you right now is Mackenzie Gore on that front. But with players like C.J. Abrams and with people like C.J. Abrams. Give me 1 second. With people like C.J. Abrams, Dylan Cruz, James Wood, and Louis Garcia Jr. Being part of that lineup, they got some things working for him. they really need to find themselves some good pitching in order to be able to maybe take that next step from, oh, look, we got promised to, oh, look, we're looking at a possible future contender. They got to get there. And right now, I don't see it yet, but if they can find some people in that rotation to step up, maybe that number could be higher. Next up is all right. Next, I have the Baltimore Orioles, and when you know it, I got them finishing second in the AL East with 88 wins. 88 and 74 is my record for this one. I do think Felix Bautista's return will help that bullpen. However, the free agency hurt them because they lost their ace in Corbin Burns and Anthony Santander, an outfielder that definitely contributed to their lineup as well. Here's the question. Can the rotation hold it together? They now have Charlie Morton, who is 41. Tomoyuki Sugano, of course, is a Japanese player that's trying to adjust the major leagues. Grayson Rodriguez is their ace, but is currently hurt. So right now it's starting to look like it's Zach Eflin is going to have to step it up. But like I said, if their rotation can step it up, can hold it together, then the Orioles have the talent that could probably, I think, could go 88, maybe reach the 90 tiers. The 91 to 95 tier. If they can't, they might be in line more with the Brewers and the Mariners at the 81 to 85 range. San Diego Padres, you're on the clock, and I got you going 83 and 79. There's a lot of talent here. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., but I think the problem is this is one of those teams that really lost more than they gained in the offseason, and the ownership has kind of been tight with their wallet of late, which is not going to help matters if they want to try to rebuild that team up, which is why I think you see Arizona zooming ahead of them in second place in the NL West right now. Because Arizona is willing to spend, San Diego isn't. San Francisco took a few risks themselves, but they had more holes to fill than San Diego did. So I guess that's going to be the question. Can they get that? Can they start spending a little bit more to maybe get their team back up in the upper echelon of the National League? That's going to be the question. Philadelphia, I got them going 90 and 72. I think the thing about them right now, they are definitely, arguably have one of the best rotations in the National League. You got Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, and you got yourself a solid lineup as well. The only problem is they're aging. I don't really think they did a lot to kind of mitigate that this year. So they got to keep their fingers crossed that they stay healthy, because if they don't, you can see them maybe dropping to the 81, 85, or even the 76, 80 tiers. That might be one of those stories here, but they do have enough, I think. They could potentially crash the National League championship series and have fun with that. A team that will not, however, will be the Pittsburgh Pirates. I got them going 73 and 89. They got a very solid rotation. Paul Skeens, obviously a star. Jared Jones, although he is dealing with injury, he definitely would be a very good number 2, and in some places would be a number 1. And then you got the third person, which is Mitch Keller, another guy who might be other teams number two elsewhere. But the problem is that lineup is just uninspiring. I mean, when you one of your greatest pickups in the offseason is Andrew McCutchen, I don't really think you did much to improve it. They may be on the wrong end of a lot of 2-1, 3-1 losses if things don't necessarily pick up. Maybe if the offensive stars and O'Neal Cruz and if O'Neal Cruz and 1 second, it'll hit me. Okay, Brian Hayes. If they can step up, maybe that might help a little bit. But right now, I kind of think they're going to be lagging behind everyone else a bit in the NL Central. Next up is going to be the Texas Rangers, and we got ourselves another team, much like Arizona, that probably will do better than people expect. I got them going 90-72. Now they do need those. They do need that offense to come alive, and they do need to get a few more of those pitchers to step up in that rotation. But hey, the good news is they got young. They definitely have some young guns in the back of that rotation, so that's certainly possible. But the good news is Jacob deGrom appears to be back, and if he can go through, give him 150 to 170 innings of good solid pitching, Texas is definitely going to be a threat to come out of the American League once again, like they were a couple years ago when they actually won themselves their first World Series. They gotta hope, like I said, they gotta hope that maybe they can get some improvement out of the lineup and on that rotation, but if they can get there, they are definitely capable of raising that banner. And next up, we got the Tampa Bay Rays. I have them going exactly 81-81. They have a good thing going for them right now in the form of they have one of the best rotations in the American League. You got Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Shane Baz, Taj Bradley, Ryan Pepio. But in some cases, you got some injury concerns. And I think more tellingly, they need to get that lineup to step up a little bit. Also, not helping matters is it looks like they're going to be playing a lot of the games in the summer. It's going to be outdoor games. And because of what happened to Tropicana Field, they're having to play at the George Steinbrenner Stadium and I guess the minor leagues with the Yankees, and that's not going to be fun. And it's kind of hard to get your team rallied around when your fans aren't going to show up. So, I think there's enough there. They could probably get around 500, but if they're going to get in, say instead of the Yankees, a lot's going to go right for them for that to happen. And I'm going to predict not enough does. A team that I think is that enough is going to go right for them this year is going to be Boston. The Red Sox, I got them going 90-72, winning the division. I think Garrett Crochet and Walker Buehler should help bolster that rotation. They got a solid lineup. If they can get past their bullpen issues, and I think they will, they should be able to get in out of the AL East and have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. Like I said, 90-72, they're going to win by 2 games over the Orioles. But like I said, that's just me going lock and change. Cincinnati Reds is next up. I got them going 79 and 83. The thing with the Reds, they did improve his manager with the addition of Terry Francona, and they have a solid offense going led by L.A. De La Cruz. But what they need is a rotation. Right now, they look like the sort of team that can win a lot of box scores, like 9-7 or 11-9. But yeah, you can't do that on a regular basis. You're going to find yourself ultimately losing some of these games on the wrong end, especially when you hit across some teams that have really good rotations. So right now, I got them barely beating the Cards for third, but for them to go up, they got to get some improvement in that rotation. That's pretty much all there is to it. Colorado, I have no faith in this group. They finished 57-105. And pretty much as exactly the same record as the Marlins. They finished 120 and 204 in the last two seasons. No major additions. They still got some players that probably they should have traded a few years back. They got some young players that can do things for them, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to be enough. Kansas City Royals. I got them winning the AL Central with 87 wins. And I want to emphasize the fact that Bobby Wood Jr. is a star. They got a very solid rotation in form of Lugo, Michael Waka, Cole Reagans, but I think they might need a bat to possibly advance in the playoffs, particularly if they want to want a chance at the World Series. They may need to trade during mid-season for that. But the good news is I think some possibilities will present themselves if the season goes the way I think it will. Detroit, I got them going 83-79. The Tigers have themselves a great top of the rotation in the form of Terry Skubal, Jack Flaherty, got them from Baltimore, I think, in free agency. But I think what it's going to come down to is that lineup. I don't think there's enough there that will get them to take the next step towards the top of the AO Central. I think they will have enough that they will probably finish second, depending on how things go. But they really need some bats need some improvement from their bats in order to become more of a threat. Speaking of teams needing help, the Minnesota Twins. They go as far as Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Brian Buxton takes them, and right now part of the problem is none of them are particularly healthy. They do have a pretty good bullpen, and they got a solid rotation in Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, and Joe Ryan, but unfortunately, when you build across three stars and they don't really get to play a lot of the time, you're going to be hurting. I think they're going to finish 82-80. There'll be just enough to tease. The question you got to ask yourself is, do we stick with this? Do we move on? Speaking of teams that obviously are fine with moving on, we got the Chicago White Sox, which I think is going to finish 52-110. I've been wrestling with this for a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do think they suffered. Part of the reason they lost 121 games came down to some bad luck. But the thing is, they really don't have a lot of players right now. I mean, they got players. I mean, that's why they're in the majors and not, say, AAA. But considering the only person left for them is Lewis Robert Jr., it's more a matter of when than if they're going to trade him. The question you got to ask yourself is, can the youth that they've been trading for, can they start showing some of that promise and maybe giving Chicago something to root for as they start to worry about their situation with the guaranteed rate ballpark in a few years. Because if they can't, then they might be one of those teams that ends up going up and moving. Possibly. And last but not least, we got the New York Yankees. I mean, a lot of people are a little bit more bullish on them than I am. I got them going 84-78. They could slide down a level or two depending on how the breaks go for them. But already you lost Garrett Cole and probably Giancarlo Stanton for the season. You got to ask yourself, can the rotation led by Max Fried, a good signing by the way, and Marcus Stroman hang on? Can Aaron Judge get some help from Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt? Or is this going to be one of those seasons that you end up going, we had a lot of promise, but gosh darn it, we didn't get those breaks, and now we're hovering around the 500 mark. I think I got them just sneaking in the AL playoffs. But I've seen other places think that maybe they might go 80, 82, or maybe even a little worse than that. I mean, Judge can only help you so much at the end of the day. You got to be able to step things up elsewhere. Unless, of course, you like them, instead of a hack-a-shack strategy, they go for a walk-a-judge strategy. That could be a thing if they can't get things improved. All right, folks. This will conclude this video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and spread the word. This is Tickets Please, telling you to have fun at the ballpark. We'll see you when we see you.